welcome back everybody. It's Monday, so happy Monday, happy start of new week. And we are back. I'm Oksana.
I'm Andre.
And we're back with the series here on live under the title of Books and
Inspirations
So the book that inspired us to do this series
is Letters to a Young Athlete by Bosh.
And someday we'll figure it out how to actually show it so you guys can see it the right way and not the strange way, but we're in the process of learning. So we already covered 3 letters and they were really interesting, and thank you very much for writing back and communicating with us on the topics that we covered, and thanks to Bosh. So we've talked already about what did we talk?
The introduction, chapter 1,
introduction,
chapter 2,
right,
and chapter 3.
Right, so we covered the why, we covered the hunger that supports and helps you to go forward with your own unique, special why that is not borrowed from anybody. And then we also at the very beginning started with the first letter where Chris talks about importance of pushing yourself forward. And I specifically pointed out the fact that we tend to, as human beings, go to extremes. Go very low or go so much all the way forward that we get burned out and tired and basically down to ground zero of energy, and then it's very hard to get back. So those are the 3 things that we covered so far, and today is a great letter with a very exciting topic, and the title is
Cultivating the Mind.
And I'll let Andre start with the quote and then we'll go from there.
So the quote here is, trying to get better as a thinker, as a person, as a whole package. But if you neglect the part of your body between your ears, there's always going to be a huge hole in your game, no matter what your sport is, because that part of your body is where the playbook and film study go. It is very true that you do need to have good physical prowess to play sports, but you also need to have a sharp mind to stay ahead of the game. And this quote reminded me of another quote by a famous person. This famous person is a famous American general whose name is James Mattis. And this quote is, the most important 6 inches on the battlefield is between your ears. It is very true that you need to have a sharp mind to stay at the top of your game.
Yeah, so it's funny, but those 2 quotes kind of go hand in hand, and actually this quote, you can see it's on the page, on a piece of paper here. We had it posted on our wall as a reminder because, after all, the inches between the ears are still the most important. So we have a few other quotes, and then I will go right into to talk a little bit more about cultivating the mind. So maybe here, right? That's the other one.
Most game nights, I made sure to take some time to read a book before suiting up. I learned that I was only going to be able to play at my best if I could stay mentally sharp. So that meant exercising my along with my body.
Any thoughts?
Well, as I said before, you need to have a sharp mind.
And, I like that Bosh, the very famous athlete, actually talks about exercising your mind. Because by now we are all aware that we need to exercise our body, we need to watch what we're eating, right? We need to keep in shape our muscles, keep in shape our overall body. And I'm glad that he is pointing out the importance of exercising and keeping in shape our mind. That is so important, and that is so often not necessarily forgotten, but in some way we pay attention to other things and believe that somehow mind magically will keep itself in shape, and it just doesn't happen. So with this letter that he titles the Cultivating Your Mind, I think it's very important, the title of it, because in Latin the translation of cultivating would be to grow. And just like we are growing our muscles, just like we're growing to be stronger, just like we're going to be more fitted. The same thing with the mind. We need to keep in mind the importance of growing our mind. And going back to his very first letter where he talked about, do you remember?
When you aren't anything but tired?
Right, pushing you forward. Well, exactly the same with your mind. The more we use it, the more we exercise, and the more we read, the better it becomes. So this talking about growing your mind, I kind of want to reach out to parents and to young adults there, that of course reading is very, very important. And again, this book is a great way to support that activity. As a life coach, I often hear from parents that, well, my children don't like to read. And I always go back to the parents and I ask them, okay, well, tell me about your house, tell me about your apartment and about your environment. Is the environment promotes reading? Do you have books in your home? Well, no, not really. Okay. Do you read books yourself? Well, I'm so busy that I don't have time to do that, but I understand how important it is for my children. Well, parents, keep in mind that the most powerful and the most important part of what we can do is to actually do it ourselves, whatever it is we want our children to do. And Andre is agreeing with that, because I can preach all I want, but if with my behavior and with what I do, I actually don't support my talk, then it doesn't work. It's just way too shallow. There is also such a thing as mirror neurons that been opened and discovered in the late 90s. And the idea with that, we copy more, monkey see, monkey do. And that's what happens when children see that we do something, then they starting to copy. So if you want to start your children reading, then just like everything else, it all starts with you. Get the book, start reading. Prepare the environment. Our thinking influences our environment, but also our environment influences our thinking. So if you don't have books anywhere in your house, then most likely it would be something very foreign for your children to go and reach out, because it's not there, it's not available. Another thing is, again, when I'm hearing that, well, we do have books, but it's still not helping. Keep trying, keep looking and finding different books, just like finding friends, just like finding spouses, just like finding the big why in your life. It's not something that is just right there for you to take it and you don't need to search. With the books, with the style, with the authors, it's also a journey. So help your children to discover, to figure out what is it that they might like. There are a lot of different ways of doing it. For example, with Andre, what we've discovered now several years back is the Amazon box, and each month you get a selection of books and you can choose, or if you're too late with choosing, sometimes that happens to us, then they choose for you. But most of the time selections are really interesting, and at least from what I see, all the books that he receives, he finishes, right?
Yeah, most
of the time. So that's one way to do it. You can go to the library, you can do it all sorts of different creative ways. You can read books together. This is how this project happened to us, and this is not the first book that we're reading together. Sometime Andre would tell me that this is a great book, you should read it. There's one book that he keep advising me to read and I can't get to it yet. What is that book?
Spy School.
The Spy School, right. So read it together, do it as a family activity, have your family book club. You don't have to reach out outside to have a book club. You can have it inside the family book club and then talk about your favorite quotes and so on. So,
yes. I'd like to say something. Back when you said that if your child you want your child to read but you aren't doing it, that reminded me, I read somewhere, don't remember where, that Gandhi was once approached by a woman who asked him to tell her son to stop eating sugar. He said, come back in 2 weeks. She came back in 2 weeks, and all he said was, stop eating sugar, to her son. And she said, why couldn't you say that 2 weeks before? He said, because I was eating sugar then.
Well,
so you need to be in the mindset to, try to help the car get moving of the idea of reading.
Right. And again, it starts from you. So in Gandhi's case, it started from the end of I wasn't reading, right? I mean, I wasn't eating, or I was eating, and now as I'm not eating now, I can say that. So always, even though we're very tempted to start fixing everything outside us and everything externally, unfortunately, it starts with you. So start with yourself, start reading, start buying books, start making it an environment for your children so they will get curious. Go with them to book fairs, go to the libraries, go to the places where they can be surrounded by books. If they don't like to read but love sports, start with something like this. Find books written by famous athletes. There are many wonderful books, and that could be a great way to start. So basically, go from their hobby, go from their people that they like, go from the role models that they really live by, and then see if they wrote a book, see if a friend of the role model wrote a book, and then go along with that. So there are very many ways of figuring out how to help your child to start reading, and of course it's very important. There is also, when it's a first book, it might be hard, it might be slow, but remember, right, cultivating your mind, the more you do it, the better it is. The more you run, the easier it is to run. The farther distance you can run, the more you can, and the faster you can run. The more you exercise, the better you are in shape. And there is the code that I always use: success breeds success. When something happening and you're excited and you're successful, then you want to be more. You want to do more, and you starting to, like a magnet, attract people around you who also want to be part of your success. If you're running and it's happening and you're successful, then you're sharing your success story, and then the surroundings, your friends and your relatives and colleagues start to chip in and start to share that interest with you. The same thing with books. When your kids starting to read books, when they will finish their first chapter, wow, that is great. When they will finish 2 chapters, that is fantastic. When they will be half the book done, celebrate that. And when they finish their first book, that is a big celebration. And then go forward and start building that success of reading books and being successful. So that's about cultivating mind and about reading books. Saying that, there is one more topic that he's touching in this chapter, in this letter, and I absolutely love this topic. And I'll let you read it's kind of dark here.
In my experience, the best evidence of a way that expanding your mind transfers to athletics has to do with visualization.
Visualization, right?
Yeah, close.
I can't believe I'm actually repeating the word with my accent, but visualization, oh my goodness, so important, and I absolutely love this technique. I somewhat discovered it for myself many years ago when I was an active performer, when I was an active musician playing on stage and competing, and that's how I would start every single performance. Before I would go on stage and before I will perform, I would perform it in my head. When I went into the speech giving world, and when I started to do presentations, and when I started to talk to people, and then when I started to coach people, this is the technique that I go back to all the time: visualization. Visualize your life the way you want it before you even get there. Visualize your success before you get there. Visualize whatever it is you do. And maybe you have an important meeting tomorrow. Start this visualization. Maybe you have a performance. Maybe you have a run where you're thinking of running the next 5 kilometers. Maybe you started with 2. Maybe you want to try 3. Visualize. I've known quite a few marathon runners, and I've talked to them, and I observe how they were preparing for running, and it's amazing how much visualization they do. They study maps of the route that they will be running. They study the hills up and down. if there is a chance, of course you can then run if it's in your town, but if it's not, then you study on the map. And a lot of marathons where you go, and when you register, they already have the map and some of the running technology that walks you through how you can follow. You can just sit there and you can follow, visualizing yourself running. The good part of that is that for the brain, it's not really big difference of the real event and the event that you're visualizing. So what happens, you're doing it in your head again and again and again. And then when the real event takes place, doesn't matter what it is, then for your mind, it reads as it already happened. So if you're nervous about your performance, if you're nervous about your speech giving, if you're nervous about meeting, about running, about anything, this is an excellent, absolutely fantastic exercise. Start visualizing. Now, this is something that I use. This is something that very widely used by athletes, and not only by Chris Bosh. Michael Phelps, in his book, he writes long chapters about visualization, how he used to train. He would be sitting in one place, visualizing that he's swimming. Then he would visualize how he's turning. Then he would visualize how he's swimming against a different competitor on the left or on the right. And do you remember in his swim, I believe it was an Olympic swim, when the glasses, his goggles, something went wrong and he was not able to see because it was all fogged up. And he mentions it that because of visualization, because of knowing intimately on the subconscious mind and on the mind of, without looking at, he was able to complete the swim without his goggles being really in the working condition. So visualization, incredibly helpful, useful, amazing technique. Use it yourself, share it with your children. Young adults, please, I know you have so many achievements ahead of you. You have so many plans and goals that you want to accomplish. Use visualization for anything small and for anything big. I will go even as far as you have a first date, you're nervous. Great way to use this technique. Visualize. You have your wedding and you're nervous about saying those vows, you're nervous about walking down the aisle. Visualize it. Do it again and again and again. That's where you're becoming more confident. That's where you're starting to almost learn from your own experience that you're visualizing and living without living it yet. And you have also the way of how you use visualization, right?
Since I do competitive dance, before I go on stage to compete and do the choreography, I visualize going on the stage and doing the choreography in front of a crowd before actually going and doing it.
Right, so very, very important. Get creative, and like I said, that use it. I've used it through all my life. I share it with my clients and we have an amazing results, and I know you will as well. Before we'll go, there are a few other, well, more like 3 other codes that I'll ask Andre to read it.
Which one?
This, that, and that.
Okay. All 3 right now?
Yes.
Okay. And it goes beyond strategy. You have to envision yourself playing the game before you play it. You have to really visualize.
There you go. Again, he's supporting again and again. And as you're visualizing, get so much into it emotionally that as if you would be doing it. And I often had myself, and I would be working with my students or with my clients, and they would say, oh my, I'm nervous. That is fantastic. That is exactly what you want to feel. You want to go through these stages, so then when the actual event takes place, you're prepared because you already done it.
And when you actually live through those things, you find that your surprises are minimized. In a way, you've already lived through it all before.
Well, there you go. I didn't memorize that, but because that's really how it works. And, go ahead, try it yourself.
And trust in your skill, your preparation, your jumper. Trust in your preparation so that when the other team makes a run, you'll know that you'll be ready to counter.
trust in your preparation, that is an incredible one to keep in mind. I remember again from my experience when I would go and compete, and when the nerves would kick in, I would somewhat go inside my head and I would talk to myself and I would remind myself that you've practiced well, you've done everything that you needed to do, therefore you are prepared. It's very important, and that's when being honest with yourself really kicks in. If you did not do the work, then when you become very nervous and you're about to go on stage, you're about to go to that meeting with your boss, you're about to run your marathon or whatever it is, that minute of truth will not really be helpful. So that's why preparation is so important. So when you do get nervous, you can always somewhat talk and reason with yourself and remind yourself that you've done everything that you needed to do and everything that is in your abilities to be ready. And that will be a great way to enhance and to support your confidence. That's a very, very important part. So, and visualization, obviously, part of that preparation. I don't know, did we have anything?
Yes, I want to mention one thing. Yeah, with the preparation and cultivating your mind, yes, put your main amount of focus into your main goal. But don't forget to put some focus into other stuff, to branch out, which can help your main passion. Like Bosh said, that in one off season, he taught himself how to code, and in another, he took guitar lessons.
Right, importance of, again, branching out and again exercising and cultivating and expanding your knowledge and expanding your mind. You can talk about some serious hobbies, you can think of all sorts of different ways, but don't get too stuck only on your topic and then don't go anywhere outside, because it's also very important. You want to be an interesting person for yourself, you want to be an interesting person for your surroundings, for your friends, for your colleagues, because nobody canceled communication yet. It's very important. And any communication starts with being interesting as a human being. And if the only thing you know is your narrow path, that will not make you an interesting person. So find what is it that you're excited. Find what is it that you're interested in. Don't be afraid to try. You can try all sorts of things and say, okay, I've tried it, I liked it, I tried it, I didn't, but you tried it, and that is a very important part. Anything else there?
I don't think so.
I think we are coming to the end of this letter. And this letter is, of course, extremely important 2 ways. First, cultivating your mind. Anyhow you can grow your mind, exercise your mind, any way you can learn new things, read new books, read new things, go do it. Very important. That is something that sound maybe for athletes out there as well, why would I? It's so far from my court or from my field, but at the end of the game, it actually is something that adds in and really will help you. That's first thing. And second one is visualization. Visualize your success, visualize your tomorrow, visualize your future. And this is again where cultivating your mind comes in very handy, because if the only thing you know is here and now, you don't read, you are not well-rounded and well knowledgeable about other things, then it's very hard to visualize your future, because you need to visualize something that did not happen yet. And so you really need all sorts of resources and all sorts of information in order to build that future in your head. And therefore, that's when you need to go to reading. That's when you need to go and get more information. I used to tell at my presentations that I did to younger readers that you need to read in order to, and then I would get interrupted and they would say, yeah, in order to get a good job. And I was saying, no, not necessary in order to get a good job, but absolutely necessary in order to be able to dream. Because if all you know is your own village and you don't know anything else outside, it's extremely hard to dream beyond. So cultivate your mind, read, collect all the information that is interesting for you, pull out the things that are truly yours, and go and grow with them. And then second one, visualization. Use it, share it with your friends, share it with your loved ones. It's very, very helpful technique. I think we're done here for today. Thank you for being with us. We're looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. We will be back, and we will be back with the next letter, which I believe it will be letter
5. And the name is Communication is Key. I have a feeling that will be right up your alley.
Exactly. Love communication, my topic, my expertise. So can't wait for tomorrow. Have a wonderful Monday, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.